How do you use Instagram Insights to build an engaged community on the platform?
You cannot build community if you're talking at them. You have to be talking with them. And so it is those engagement metrics. It's the likes and the comments that help.
Some people will say, well, my comment section's looking a little dry. It's a little thirsty, If that's the case, what can we do? Would you engage with this type of content? Would you leave a comment? That's my challenge.
It's not always about what's going to bring me the most income. It's more about building that community to be able to build a trust to eventually get that income from it, and all about that connection.
Today, we are so lucky to be blessed with their presence of Jen's Trends and content coach Lindsay, joining us to discuss the topic of today's IG secrets to help use insights that make a bigger impact on your social media. We're going to be discussing how to actually grow an engaged community using some of these things that we're going to find in the insights. I'm going to go to you first, Jen, in regards to how do you use Instagram Insights to build an engaged community on the platform? Like, if you had one specific one that you wanted to recommend, what would be that?
In terms of the community, my biggest thing that I look at when I'm looking at those insights, and not just post insights, but overall account insights, is looking for what generates the most engagement. And by that, I mean comments and likes. So while I care about the clicks, while I care about the reach, while I care about, the profile visits and all these other things, if I want to build a community, they have to be participating. And a lot of my community are lurkers. I get 200 likes on a photo. That's a small fraction of my total followers, but it helps give me an indication of who is actively participating with me. For stories, it's slightly different. It would be, but similar, right? It's the comments, it's the replies to those stories, not so much the likes, but the comments, the engagement. Because if you want to be building a community, it's the dialogue. And that's why if people leave comments on my posts, I would say like 90+% of the time, I respond to that comment. Okay. Even if it's just to say thanks. Because if they've taken the time out of their day to comment, the least I can do is respond and be like, thanks for your opinion, or I'm so glad you enjoyed that episode, or, what would you prefer to see, or what's the one update you were most excited about, or whatever it is. You cannot build community if you're talking at them. You have to be talking with them, right? And so it is those engagement metrics. It's the likes and the comments that help, in terms of what type of content is going to generate that engagement. And I've learned that my weekend posts are my conversational ones. They're ones where I talk about my past, my history, my life lessons, business life, mom life, and they're not Instagram at all. I don't put hashtags on them. I'm not trying to grow an audience around these things, but it's where I share who I am. And those will get sometimes 50, 60 comments on them because people are like, oh my gosh, I do the same thing with my kid, or it's so great to hear their mom say these things. And that is where I'm building community, not around here's how to post on Instagram. Yeah. So it's the engagement on those that to me is most important.
That's key, because you're nurturing your audience and they see themselves in the content that you're putting out there, and they respond, and they're reflective of that.
Yeah, for me, it's all about the comments. It's always going to be the same. I love my community. We vibe out together. They are always like, oh my goodness, and I ask them questions because I want them to feel like they're a part of it. It's sort of like what she said before, where you're not talking at them, you're speaking with them. Again, it's conversation over presentation. Some people will say, well, my comment section's looking a little dry. It's a little thirsty, If that's the case, what can we do? Would you engage with this type of content? Would you leave a comment? Would the most introverted person who says, I never leave comments, but I had to comment on this one, comment this one? That's my challenge. And I take that with so much pride because I want people to feel like they have a voice and that I appreciate their voice. If someone says something like crying, laughing face, or mention something, I'm laughing back with you because I have a sense of humor. Even trolls, like I reply, like I have so much fun. And I think,
need love.
You're helping us get engagement. Shout out to you for taking the time behind your keyboard since you're so confident,
Right? Thanks for correcting that typo. You just got me engagement.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate you. No, it's fun. I just feel like, sometimes we get too serious and focused on all the metrics, but it's like, don't forget to enjoy the process. Because in all honesty, I remember when it was all about like growth heavy for me in the very beginning, and it stressed me out. I quit for a whole week and I didn't plan on coming back. But I realized the way that I was approaching my content was not from a place of love, of joy, of happiness. It was from a place of, I got to get results and I got to do that hustle bustle approach. So I think having the comments, the DMs, the stories, I used to hate stories, fun fact, and now I just love them. I love being able to have those conversations with people, and it's the best feeling when you know that, people say, oh, this was so helpful, or I needed to hear this. Everyone's not going to leave a comment, but they might send you a DM and say, I've been watching you. This was so helpful. That means the world to me. So again, number one priority for me is going to be community in whatever form that is. The comments do help because my comment section is pretty loud. So it helps me to know what type of content to create moving forward. So market research, conversations, connecting, and building those connections. You never know. People have referred me. Even if it wasn't for them, they're like, oh, I know someone who does that. Connect with people. Have fun. That's my advice.
Yeah. I mean, this is called social media, and we should be social on this network that we have in our hands. Literally, we have the entire world in our hands where we could conversate with individuals across the world.
I love that we're, so far really focused on what connection we have, because, the question being about how to build that engaged community. It is about connection, right? It's not really about those vanity metrics to be able to just reach the millions and the masses. It's about the depth of those connections. So I'm really liking where those viewpoints are coming from and how it's different so far, because mine's actually a little different too. I actually love seeing shares more than anything when I am looking at from a bird's eye view, like overall in the past month, all the way down to like day to day when I'm looking at the posts. Like when I go into my notifications and, you see at the top shares, mentions of you, those are by far my favorite. I feel as if it takes the most for somebody to go out of their way to share something, whether it's in the DMs to somebody else or it's to their stories. It's like they have so much trust in that piece of content that you shared that they want to, give that to other people. They want to be the one that is spreading that to other people. And that really helps, one, build that connection you have with the person who's sharing, because I always do my best to go in and, have a communication with them after, thank you so much for sharing. Like it means the world, like just connecting with them in the DMs, but it also helps you reach their audience and bring those people into your space. And it's just one of my favorites. Like I love shares so much. Even if it is something that isn't necessarily income producing, maybe it's a quote that I shared, like those for me get the most shares. It's not always about what's going to bring me the most income. It's more about building that community to be able to build a trust to eventually get that income from it. And like we've said here so far, it's all about that connection that we have in order to see the end results that we really want.
It keeps going back to connections and networking. And I think sometimes we lose track of that, as you guys were kind of alluding to, that we're so focused on those vanity metrics of, we need to get these many followers, we need to get these many views. And that's cool, especially when you have a particular goal. If you're putting out content, there should be some form of goal, some form of action behind it. But I think at the end of the day, whether it's a lead, whether it's just some random person that finds your content on the Explore page, there's an opportunity for you to make a connection, a relation that person might end up becoming a new customer, might becoming a new business partner. I mean, there's so many opportunities on Instagram in regards to just talking to one person, talking to 10, 12, talking to hundreds. I'm going to stare off a little bit. I'm going to move over to a particular content format that I've been paying a little bit more attention to recently. I think we can all say Reels are not performing like they used to.
Right.
I'll be very hard pressed to find somebody that says, no, my Instagram Reels are performing great. I haven't come across that person in a while. What I have been doing is really been focused, really paying attention to even the small details of my Reels and making improvements along the way. And once again, I've been using the data, the analytics in the Instagram insights to help me make those transitions, those little tips and changes along the way. So in the Instagram insights, when you go to the accounts engaged section, there's a little section called Reels Interactions. It breaks down exactly how many likes, how many comments, how many shares, how many saves that you're getting within the time range that you designated. I take those numbers and then I monitor it against next week's numbers or the numbers from from last week. And when I see that the numbers are starting to go down, because it gives you a little percentage, I make small changes, whether it might be I changed my reel from being 10 seconds to maybe 5 seconds. There's small changes that I'm making, but I'm basing it all on the numbers that I'm getting from the Instagram insights. So that's just one way that I'm doing it. That's applying specifically to a content format. Once again, as everybody shared on the screen, it goes back to networking, because we're reaching with other people with our content, with our DMs, with our IG lives, such as we are right now. We want you guys to pay attention to all of the tips that we just shared in regards to the strategy. A lot of people don't even pay attention or even know that they have this type of information in the Instagram insights. So take a lot of this information that we shared and move forward. And as I always say, step your gram up in the best way. I'd love to share more about the social roundtable with you. If you have a moment, check out the playlist that's on the screen. It's featuring more episodes from the social roundtable, all about Instagram growth, the latest new features, and strategic ways to build on your engagement, and so much more. You're not going to miss it. So make sure you check it out